Hi there. Remember me? You might remember me from such blogs as the past 47, but it's been a little while since we've done this, since we've had a little chat, since we've played poker. It's about 10 days, in fact. 10 days since the last proper vlog. That's just too long, way too long of a stretch. My apologies, but sometimes life happens, you know? But hey, we're back at it, ready to go. I bet you're wondering, where am I coming at you from? Well, if you watched the previous video that I did, which was a live stream, you would know the answer to that question. Just a quick summary, we are in Detroit, Rock City, Detroit, Michigan. In fact, over there is downtown Detroit. You can almost see the Renaissance Center. It's a little bit foggy today, a little bit hazy. We had a little bit of a Michigan thunderstorm going on earlier today. So that's Detroit, and over there is Canada. And that right there is Casino Windsor. Wait, no, that's not Casino Windsor. Casino Windsor is all the way down here. So that can only mean one thing. We're standing on Belle Isle, beautiful little island in the Detroit River, sandwiched between Detroit, Michigan, United States of America, Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Fun little fact, we used to go right across the bridge or through the tunnel over to Windsor when we were 19 and 20 years old so we could go drink beer and enjoy the bars before we were 21. Took about 20 minutes to get over there. Nice little perk of living in Michigan. Also a fun fact, the only place to go directly south in the United States to get to Canada. That's south. Do you care about any of this stuff? I doubt it. So, let's get down to business here. You may or may not be aware of the fact that there are 3 casinos here in Detroit, Michigan. There's Greektown, there's MGM, and there's Motor City Casino. 3 casinos to choose from, all of which spread poker games. Greektown is for sure the most central to some other amenities of Detroit. Unfortunately, that casino for some reason seems to get the least amount of action out of any of the 3 casinos. MGM Casino, possibly the nicest casino. I don't know if I'm quite qualified to make that, give that award out, but I've been there a few times, really nice property. Last but not least, Motor City Casino. Definitely gets the most action, the most number of games, and the biggest games regularly. So, with all that in mind, I think the spot to go is the spot with the most action and the most games. Motor City Casino. As mentioned, Motor City Casino, they'll get the most games here, and I think they get 5-10 pretty regularly, but Thursday night, I don't know if they'll have it tonight. We'll find out. They'll at least have 2-5 and maybe some PLO going on, so we'll be in something. We'll find out shortly. Alright, so the biggest game currently running is 2-5 PLO. I think there is a list, decent sized list for the 5-10 PLO interest list, so we'll see if that gets going. The biggest no limit is 2-5, so I guess I'm just gonna see how the PLO is, see how that's playing, and go from there. Maybe get back in the 2-5 no limit, but for now, happy to play the biggest game available. Let's see what happens, let's get in there. Alright, so in this hand the straddle is on, and there's 5 limps, and we look down at ace, 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 3 with 1 suit. 2 aces are pretty good, but 3 aces are not so good in PLO. So I just go ahead and make the call, and the straddler checks it. So 7 ways to the flop. Flop is Jack 5-3 rainbow. Check it to middle position, he bets 50, and there's 1 call. I just go ahead and fold. It's the best one pair hand, but not much chance to improve here. So the action plays out heads up to the turn, turns a 10 of clubs, brings it back to our flush draw. The middle position player jams and the other player calls. First player has Jack 10 8 7, so he takes it down after he turned 2 pair. The other player turned flush draw and straight draw, so a bit of an action card, but not really that much money behind. But just kind of illustrates the situation here with 3 aces. Not really that good of a situation. Alright, so the 2-5 PLO itself is turning into the 5-10 PLO. So I'm just going to stick in that, see how much people are gambling, and see how it goes. I'll probably be in for 1,000, maybe 1,500, not sure. But yeah, just going to fire, gamble, see how it goes. Alright, so this 5-10 PLO game, every person at the table is straddling, so it's not mandatory, but with every person doing it, it's basically a 5-10-20 PLO game. Fairly sizable game we found ourselves in here. 3 blind, 5-10-20 PLO. So in this hand with the straddle on, there's 2 limps. Look down at ace-ace, 6 deuce with nut diamonds. Go ahead and raise it up, making 100 to go. We get no less than 6 callers. 7 ways to the flop here. Flop comes queen 9-8 with 2 hearts. Not exactly an ideal flop here. There's 3 checks. Middle position player jams his stack. He's only got $450. Player to his left, 3 jams. I go ahead and make the fold, and there's 2 calls behind me, so 4 players seeing the turn here. The board bricks out, and the second player who jammed, he flops the joint with Jack 10-10-5. Jack 10 holds up. Just to include the results. I know some people like to see the results of hands even after I fold, so just for a little bit of closure perhaps, but ace is no good this time. Pretty good to see a 7-way flop going on in a 5-10-20 PLO game, but no love for us this time. Alright, so quick update here. I'm hopping out of this PLO game and back into the 2-5 no limits. Not really feeling the PLO at this point. Going not great. Stuck about $700 or $800 in the PLO. So I'm going to move over to the 2-5. I'm going to continue to keep an eye on this PLO game and see how the lineup looks through the night, but not really feeling it at this point. So I'm just going to go chill in the 2-5, the old comfort zone, I guess you might say. We'll see how that goes. I expect it to be a pretty profitable situation. So I'm going to hop in there. It's $800 max, so I'll be in for 800. Alright, back in the comfort zone here of 2-5 no limit hold'em, and in this hand there's an early position raise to $20. There's 2 calls, and I look down at pocket kings in the big blinds. Pretty strong hand, second best hand ever created. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in a standard 3-bet and raise it up to $110. The initial raiser thinks for a while, and then he makes the call. So everyone else folds, and we go heads up to a flop. Flop is queen 5-5 with 2 clubs. I expect him to be able to appeal with a decent range here, any pair, and who knows, maybe even ace-king, even though we blocked that hand. But I'm definitely going to go for value here with kings. No reason to check, obviously, and I think it's a standard bet. So that's what I do, about 125, and he makes the call. Turn brings another 5. Pretty interesting card. I think he will be forced to shut down with all of his club draws if we put in a bet. So going for a little bit of balance with my my ace high holdings and my other squeeze type holdings. I decide to check it over to him, give him a chance to make a play at the pot. He goes ahead and he puts a bet out. So he bets $150. He's only got maybe $350 behind. So in this spot, I figured that if I call, then I can only have value hands. I definitely have some sort of showdown value. But if I put in a raise, then perhaps I can keep my range fairly balanced. I can have some bluffs, some check raise bluffs, and obviously some value hands as well. So that's what I decided to do. I just go ahead and jam it all in. My opponent calls right away. So perhaps a little worrisome. I don't expect him to have a 5 that often, but pocket queens is definitely a possibility. The river comes in ace. I go ahead and roll over the kings, and my opponent rolls over ace queen. Not exactly a very favorable river card for us. A little bit unfortunate here. We got the money in as a very massive favorite, but as poker happens to go sometimes, we get it in good and come out on the losing end. So pretty happy with the line, I think. Pretty happy to get all the money in as a huge favorite. No reason to get philosophical about it, but just mathematics at work. Very shortly after that hand, there are 2 or 3 limps, and I look down at queen 10 off on the button, looking to defend my button, and decide to come in for a raise and make it 30 to go. The big blind and the second limper call. So 3 ways to a flop here. Flop comes jack 9-3 with 2 clubs. Flop an open ender, 1 overcard. The big blind checks and the cutoff bets $30. He doesn't have very much money behind. He's only got $125 or so behind. It's pretty, feels like a pretty weak stab. And if I call down and the turn comes a club or a brick of some sort, it's gonna be tough for me to call with just queen high and the open ender. So I just decided to jam it all in there since he only has $125 left. Put him to the test a little bit. The big blind folds, and the cutoff goes into the tank, starts thinking it over, then he lets it go. So I guess he was kind of putting on a bet to see where he was at. Thinks he found out where he was at. Perhaps not, but happy to take it down here with queen high.
All right, 5 o'clock.
So in this hand, there's a late position open for $25. I look down at ace jack of clubs in the small blind. Pretty standard call, I think. The big blind calls as well. So 3 ways to a flop of jack 4-3 rainbow. The old top pair, top kicker for us. Check it to the initial raiser, who bets $25. Pretty small bet. I think there's merit to raising here, and in hindsight, I think raise is better here because we can balance that with some bluffs such as 5-6 suited, perhaps some gutters. Looking back, I think a raise is probably best, just to build a little bit bigger of a pot, even though we are out of position with 1 pair. Some chance of over-repping our hand a little bit. But I think it's okay with that sizing so small into 2 opponents. In the moment, I decided on a flat call, but looking back, I think a raise might be a little bit better. The big blind calls as well, so we still go 3 ways here. Turn card, king of diamonds, bringing a backdoor flush draw. Not the ideal card for us. I check, big blind checks, and the action checks through. River's an offsuit queen, also not the ideal river card. So I check, big blind checks, initial raiser checks as well. So I go ahead and show. The big blind shows us queen 10 offsuit, and the initial raiser mucks. So not too sure what's going on there with the queen 10, but apparently the price was right for him to peel, in his mind at least, and it worked out for him this time. All right, so normally when I say I'm gonna keep an eye on another game, I end up not jumping into it, but in this case, I've been keeping an eye on that PLO game, that 2-5, that 5-10-20 PLO game. I'm gonna switch back into that. I'm gonna get out of this 2-5 no limit game. Combination of reasons, I guess. I'm pretty card dead. Things are just not working out in the 2-5. Not that they were working out that great in the 5-10-20 PLO either. But it's short-handed and it looks fun. So I'm gonna get in there. It's only like 5-handed, so I don't know. Should be fun either way. We'll see what happens. Could be good, could be terrible, results-wise. Whatever. We're gonna give it a shot, and I'm gonna hop back in there. All right, so usual drill. Straddle is always on here. So 5-10-20. 5 players in this hand. There's 1 limp. I go ahead and make the call with jack 10, 8-8 with 1 suit in the small blind. The big blind raises it up and makes it 100 to go. There's 2 calls. Not the best hand, but not the worst hand. It's connected, has a pair, has 1 suit. With the price that we're getting, seems like a call is in order. So I go ahead and close the action with a call. 4 ways to a flop.
Flop comes pretty favorable for us. Queen 8-3 rainbow, flop middle set. I check it, the big blind bets $200. He's only got about $300 behind, and it folds to me. Not too much choice to be had here with middle set and a gut shot to the nuts. So I go ahead and raise enough to put him all in. He calls right away. The board runs out 4-10 rainbow, and I go ahead and show, and he shows us ace, something, no good. Middle set is good on this board. Flop middle set is good on this board and on this run out, so we go ahead and scoop this one. So in this hand, 5, 10, 20, 5-handed again. There's one limp, and I look down at king, jack, deuce, double suited. Pretty premium hand, double suited kings, worth a raise. So I go ahead and make it $90 to go. The straddler calls, and the limper, who doesn't have too much money at this point, I think he's got about $450 or so total. He puts in a 3-bet. He limp 3 bets to $200. I guess to reopen the action is it's my guess. I don't expect him to always have aces here with the limp 3-bet. With his stack size, perhaps just looking to gamble it up a little bit. He might just be doing that and trying to reopen the action, so we can just go ahead and get it in heads up. I'm happy to oblige with double suited kings. I go ahead and put in a 4-bet. I make it $700 to go. Pulls around to the limper, who goes ahead and makes the call. The flop comes ace high, but the turn is a favorable offsuit king. River's a jack. I go ahead and show my hand, and it's good. So we're gonna scoop this one as well. We have the best hand going into the flop. We have the best starting hand, and we end up with the best hand. So things are looking up. Things are looking up here in the 5, 10, 20 PLO. Nice change of pace for the evening. All right, so in this hand there are 3 limps to me, and I look down at king, queen, 10, 6 with 3 hearts in the small blind. Not an ideal hand. Having 3 hearts, we block one of our own hearts. King high, somewhat run down. 6 is a bit of a dangler here, so not an ideal hand, but getting the price that we have seems worth a call in the small blind. Action checks through, so we're going 5 ways to a flop here. Flop comes queen 8-5 with 1 heart. We flop top pair, but I'm not sure it's worth putting on a bet here, so I go ahead and check it, and the action checks all the way through. The turn is the ace of hearts, so we pick up the nut flush draw on the turn, as well as a gutter to go along with our now second pair. You could maybe make a case for betting here, for barreling. Betting here on the turn, and then if we whiff, putting in another barrel on the river. The problem with that though is that we have 3 hearts, which means we're blocking flush draws, and we also have a 6, so we block straight draws. So the hands that we're going to get called by in the turn are probably going to be weighted a little bit stronger to top pair type holdings, top pair plus type holdings. It seems like we would prefer our opponents to have flush and straight draws if we're going to go ahead and barrel. So doesn't seem like the best barreling situation, so I go ahead and check it here. The big blind puts out a bet of $100. The straddler calls, and I think for this price, seems like a very reasonable call here, drawing to the nuts a couple different ways. So that's what I do. I go ahead and make the call. The river's the 9 of hearts, so we make the nuts, and we're definitely going to take down this pot. Now it's just a question of whether we can get more value. So definitely going to make that attempt, and I bet $250. The big blind folds. The straddler starts thinking for quite a while, thinking it all over, and eventually he settles on a call. So that's an extra $250 coming our way. River the nuts, a little bit of value there on the river. This 5, 10, 20 PLO game, things are working out for us. Just taking down pots left and right. Running really good here, and happy to have switched it up from the earlier shenanigans. Happy to be dragging in pots at the PLO game, especially considering that this game is a rather sizable game.
$1,736.
And we're keeping. I'll go grab it.
I was crying like I was about to console. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Again, thank you.
Wrapping up the session, or should I say sessions. Vegas, Detroit, doesn't really matter, does it? Gonna be on a ridiculous backward schedule no matter what city it is. 10 in the morning, wrapping it up. All right, so slightly embarrassing here, but I somehow managed to like get a little bit confused about how much I was actually in for. But I think I was in for 3,300, out for 7,600. Considering that we were stuck a pretty decent amount there, I'd say that's a pretty solid result. Definitely happy with the way that one played out, considering how crappy it was going in the early going. So that was quite an adventure. From 2.5 PLO to 5.10 PLO to 5.10.20 PLO to 2.5 no limit to 5.10.20 PLO again. A little bit unexpected. Didn't plan on going around the world like that as far as the games go, but it certainly worked out. Happy to have booked a win here in the homeland, home turf. I don't know if this is my home turf. I'm definitely not a reg here. There's a lot of people that know each other in these games, and I don't know anybody. So, good crowd though, good action, good fun. Detroit, Rock City. Not as many rocks as there are in Las Vegas. So, good times, good action. Come visit. You should come visit. Make a visit to Detroit.